Welcome to Pep Talk and Pickleball, the podcast where we explore empty nest life, health, fitness, and nutrition, all with a side of pickleball fun. I'm your host, Jill Lewis, your guide through this exciting phase of life. As a certified faster way to fat loss coach and fellow empty nester, I'm here to share insights, interview experts, and yes, sprinkle in some pickleball talk. Join me for weekly doses of motivation and laughter as we navigate health, happiness, and pickleball passion. Grab your paddle, join the conversation, and let's dive into Pep Talk and Pickleball. Welcome back to Pep Talk and Pickleball. This is your host, Jill Lewis, and I'm so pumped today because I'm here with one of my Faster Way coach buddies. This is Kristin Dawson. Kristin, I met over a year ago, I guess, at a Faster Way retreat, and she is just a lovely person. She's a mom, she's a coach, she's a wife, she is a just all-around badass too. If you saw her, well, if you're watching on YouTube, then you can see the gun show. You should do a little quick flex for them because she has got, yes, there they are. She's got an incredible physique but more importantly, just a great heart and just, also a wonderful coach. So thank you so much, Kristin, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Good. So, okay, Kristin, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you get into the wellness space?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So y'all, like literally going back to when I was a kid, always insecure. I grew up in a family full of really skinny, tall. I was tall too, but I was the thicker one. They got to eat whatever they wanted and I ate whatever I wanted and just was big. And not horribly, but always like 15, 20 pounds overweight. So fast forward through high school, so insecure about it. And obviously fell into diet culture at super young age. And back then it works, right? When you're a teenager, you just starve yourself and go to the gym and it works. So that's what actually got me started, unfortunately. Fast forward, fell in love with weightlifting, realized that I was losing weight, right? Doing all those things, but I wasn't getting the body that I wanted. Weightlifting did that for me. So I would say I was probably about 19 or 20 when I really started not just going to the gym, but learning, researching anything that I could get my hands on. I just couldn't get enough. And then fast forward after I had my second child was when it was like, okay, things are starting to not work the same. So that's when I really dove into the nutrition side of it. So I got certified as a personal trainer back in my early 20s, but really dove into the nutrition side of things in my late 20s and got sports nutrition certified. And that's when I discovered macros. So I've been tracking macros on and off for over 10 years. And I've learned not only the science behind it, but how you can use it to your advantage and to manipulate what you want to happen in your body in a healthy way, in a sustainable way. And obviously that's one reason why I became a coach, was to help women do this. It's been a struggle for all of us. And if you have the answers, why not share it?
Yes, exactly. So, Kristin, you have been tracking macros. I think that would probably surprise most women that, when you go on a journey to, if your goal is weight loss, okay, you might think to yourself, like, all right, well, I've heard about macros and I'm willing to do that for a period of time, and then I'm going to reach my goal weight, and then I can go back to life as normal. So, why don't you tell me your thoughts on that?
So here's the thing too, and I always like to preface by saying, and I tell all my clients this, you do not have to track for the rest of your life. You don't.
Mhm.
However, macros macros are just calories, you guys, but in specific forms, okay? We know that the way our body is ultimately built is based on what we're eating, okay? So the only way to truly change your body is to determine what is coming in. What am I consuming, So no, you don't have to track for the rest of your life, but if you're unhappy with where you are, sure, you could potentially change the way you're eating without tracking your food, but to know and to have such confidence of, this is my goal and this is what I want to see happen. Counting macros, tracking your macros is one of the surefire ways to make that happen. So for me, I keep it as a tool in my back pocket. Do I track every single day of my life? No. But when I have a goal in mind, yes, I'm going to be very consistent with it. And so that's what I kind of like to implement with my clients, teach my clients. This is something that you can always turn to have success. But that doesn't mean the macros that I had 10 years ago are absolutely not the macros that I have now. There are going to be reasons why we change them, and there are going to be ways that we can manipulate the ratios to see the results that we need in that particular time of life or for whatever goal we may have. So does that answer your question? I think.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Totally. When I started, it's so interesting. When I started tracking macros, and for those of you that are like, okay, what are you even talking about? Macronutrients. So if you were like a brand new to nutrition or don't really know, you've maybe just been a calorie counter your whole life. Macronutrients just mean your protein, your carbs, and your fats. And we pay attention to those. Also calories, because calories do matter no matter what. If you're over consuming calories, that's going to put on weight. But your macronutrients, you're going to break it down, paying attention to how much proteins, carbs, and fats. Kristin, could you give them a little more like background on that? Why that's important, and what kind of data that's going to give you?
Absolutely. So, and going based on what Jill said, so macros are they're just calories, right? But what your food is broken down into is again going to ultimately affect what your body is made of. So, for example, protein, which is probably the most underrated macronutrient when it comes to the way that the, American standard diet is, that's literally the building block for your muscle. And when women hear the word muscle, it's like, well, I don't want to be muscly. I just want to be skinny. I just want to be thin. Well, okay, sorry to break it to you, but you have muscle, and that muscle is what keeps you young. That muscle is what burns fat for you. So if you're under consuming your protein and you're potentially over consuming your carbohydrates or your fats, that's where you're going to see your muscle deteriorate and that body fat increase, or lack of energy, or your hair starts falling out, or there could be so many different things and deficiencies that come from not getting one particular macronutrient. This is why health coaches are just torn to bits when we hear people talk about eliminating carbs. Like, no, don't do that. Carbohydrates have their place. We would love to go into detail as to why, but that might be another conversation for another day. But you need those carbs. You need your healthy fats. You need all these particular macronutrients together, balanced in a particular way based on your individual goals and your bio individuality to have the results or success that you want.
Absolutely. Yes. So, okay. So a client comes and works with us, and this is kind of what I experience as a coach, and maybe, I'm assuming that you do as well. And and you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, and I think you do such a great job of explaining it. But most people don't take into account something that's called periodization with their nutrition and their workouts. So when clients come to me, it's like they have that, they want to lose X amount of weight, and they think we've got these macros, or I'm going to set them up with those, for them. And then they follow that, and then that's going to work. And then that's the end of it. So can you kind of talk to that point about periodization, what it is, why it's so important?
Yes. So first and foremost, it's really important to know that the human body is always going to adapt to whatever it is that you're doing. It's like it has its own little brain. Your muscles have their own little brain. Your stomach has a little brain. Everything is functioning, knowing that, okay, picking up all these cues and learning what your patterns are and what your rituals are, to where it wants to completely adapt to that, to where it's not freaked out anymore. If you experience some sort of change, your body's going to be like, ah, and then it wants to get used to that, so it's not freaked out anymore, right? So periodization, when we look at how our body adapts to our dietary intake, our exercise, just like it adapts to everything else, the temperatures outside, anything, periodization kind of sets you up in a way for success long term, to where you're ultimately planning your diet on a macro level. Okay, not like I'm dieting, but what you're eating on a macro level, ensuring that you have these different phases or periods of time, right, that are specifically geared and structured around the outcome you want to achieve, again, for long-term success. So the problem is, so many of us were introduced to diet culture at such a young age. It's all about money, right? They just want to, it's a quick fix. It's that instant gratification, because they know if they see results really fast, they're going to keep coming to us. They're going to keep doing this, right? Well, unfortunately, again, because of homeostasis, because our body wants to adapt, those quick fixes stop working long term. So when a client comes to us and has that mindset of, okay, you're going to give me macros and I'm going to have all this weight loss and it's going to be fantastic. Yes, that's the truth. But again, your body will adapt to that. And it is our job to ensure that that doesn't take place and making sure that you have this one quote dieting phase, right? Where we give you your macros for fat loss. Well, you can't stay there because your body will adapt. So what we have to do is bring you out of that into a different phase, whether it's maintaining the weight loss you've had, whether it's potentially going above maintenance to where you need to build some muscle. You know, again, that goes back to what your specific goals are. And that's where, you know, having a coach, a professional can really help you set the grounds for those goals and how to get there, you know? So yeah, so that's what I mean, I guess to sum up periodization, it's just planning out your nutrition strategically. And obviously for the best results, you plan your workouts around that as well. But for the sake of talking about nutrition, it's just those periods of time where you have to switch it up.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. So I've gone through that myself where, I came into the Faster Way as a client and I mean, I look back and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's all I ate. And I remember at the time thinking that was quite a bit of food, which just goes to show. And I was someone that was just in the fitness arena for most of my adult life and career. I really didn't dive into the nutrition part until I joined the Faster Way. And it's pretty just shocking now that I know what I know. I look back and go, well, no wonder why in my early 40s, like 500 workouts a week weren't doing it, for
Yeah.
me, because I was like living on nothing. And what I was living on was like void of all nutrition. And, it was like a lot of bars and processed stuff. It wasn't a lot, not bars as in I was going to a bar. It was a lot of like
Yeah,
protein
no, I got
bars
you.
and things like that. So it's funny to me though, now that I look back, like what was a fat loss phase for me then was probably, gosh, probably at least 400 calories less than what a fat loss phase is for me right now, which is bliss. Like that's so much a better place to be in, which is ultimately, I think, interesting when it comes to for women to understand that to not be afraid to eat more food and that eating more food, the kind of food that we're talking about, isn't going to be a detriment to them. So do you ever come across that with your clients?
Oh my gosh, like ridiculous. I literally have at least 2 to 3 client calls one-on-one a week that goes over this mindset shift around food. And it's funny because I can tell them like when I'm maintaining my weight, when I'm happy with where I am and I want my food, I'm getting in like 24, potentially 2,500 calories. And their jaws hit the ground and they're like, wait, what? And even me saying that to them, they still can't wrap their brain around, look, you could probably have 2,000, 2,100 calories yourself. No, 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 I can't. No, I can't. Yes, you can will get you there. It's not an overnight jump either. And that's something else that periodization helps with in the sense of
Mm-hmm.
if you've come from a diet, let's just, God forbid, say one of these Optavia or something where you're at like 1,200 calories, 1,100 calories. We won't just throw you at 2,000 calories. That will not only shock your body, but make your body like rebel, right? So it's a slow
Right.
process. We change little by little so that we don't shock the body in a terrible way. It's good, it's good change, it's good shock. And that's where I feel like if I can help, and I hate to use the word convince my clients to understand, but if it's like, listen, I'm gonna give your body just a little bit more to where it doesn't freak out. Trust me, like we don't gain 20 pounds in a week, right? So if I give
Mm-hmm.
you this little bit and you see your weight stays the same, will you trust me? Will you, like understand that this is science? This is what your body needs. You might even lose a pound getting more weight or getting more food in, And then, and you hear it in their voice and I understand it because I've been there, and I'm glad that I went through what I went through when I was younger. I feel like I can sympathize with them on that level, but to where I'm also like, trust me, listen to me. I know what I could, like you'll be shocked in 6 months where you are, whether it's your body composition completely changed and you're consuming so much more food. It's just such an incredible process. And, hopefully as a coach, you build that rapport with them to where they do trust the process and listen.
Right. Because I mean, ladies out there listening, like what's the alternative? The alternative is say you started eating 1,500 calories and you're tracking that and you've had success, and then the success maybe slows, and like we call that, you're going to start to plateau. Well, what's the alternative there? Do you want to just keep going down? Do you want to keep eating less? I mean, that sounds not great, you know? So if you could increase it a little bit, is that kind of what you're talking about here, Kristin? If you can kind of go up a little bit, I mean, we're just talking like little increments and kind of get your body, rev back up again. That's always the word I use. Like, we want to keep that metabolism fired up. We want to keep your body, like you said, and the body's always just fighting to find that neutral place. But I always think like, man, you can't, at some point, you can't just keep lowering the calories and lowering the macros down.
You can't. And that's the problem is so many women will lower the amount of food that they're eating under their BMR. And your BMR is your basal metabolic rate. It's basically your metabolism. It's the rate at which your body needs energy just to sustain itself, just to live, just to sit in this chair. It's the amount of food that my body needs.
Just to breathe.
Hypothetically, yeah, exactly. So if let's say my BMR is 1,600 calories, and well, but diet culture is telling me to go down to 1,200 calories to lose weight. Sure, I'm going to lose weight quickly, but then not only am I losing potential fat, I'm also burning through muscle because I'm not getting enough food to maintain that muscle. But my metabolism, my body starts to recognize, hold on a second, she's giving me a whole 400 calories less than what I need to survive. So I've got to learn, I've got to adapt on how to survive of just 1,200 calories. So your metabolism then slows down. And then what happens, like Jill said, when you get to this, now I'm at 1,200 calories and I'm still not seeing any weight loss. So what do? 1,100 calories, 1,000 calories, and I'll go down to 800 calories now. It's like this never ending. And then you get to that point, y'all, not only are you malnourished and completely deficient of so many like vitamins and minerals, but you're miserable, you're horrible to be around, you're not sleeping. There's so many negative side effects, all because you were just trying to lose more weight, and it's like, gosh, like Jill said, the alternative of just slowly increase it, allow your metabolic rate to increase, get to that point where now my BMR is 1,700 calories, so I can even up it again. Oh, it's 1,800 calories now. It's such a beautiful thing. Like, I geek out when it comes to the science behind how to get your metabolism up, because if I can get a client eating 2,300 calories and she's losing weight, like job well done, I win.
Yes.
Like,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
It's such a better place to be. And then, that's when you make it a lifestyle. That's how, when we always talk about like the faster way is a lifestyle, that's when you get into the lifestyle component of it. So that way you go on vacations, because a lot of people freak out. Holidays, vacations make them very nervous, anniversaries, parties, all of that. Well, when you're able to live in maintenance for a while, then you're just like, bring on vacation and bring on the holidays, because I went through all the holidays, November and December, in probably more calories than I had consumed in I don't even know, probably ever. It was the most blissful 2 months.
Yes. Yep. I know it. I know it. And the cool part is too, if you can get your body used to fueling off of 2,400 calories or something near that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then and get comfortable with it. When you don't track, there's no fear of I'm going to overeat, because 2,400 calories is a lot. And sometimes you have to be
It's an effort.
intentional. Yeah, exactly. So then sometimes you're under eating, not even realizing it, and you're still at like 2,100 calories. It's just so great.
It really is. Um, I feel like, for me, when clients, probably the hardest macro that they have for them to hit is the protein goal. And that's something that they're just not used to. I call it the standard American diet. Sad. I like to just remember it that way. It is sad. It's the saddest thing ever, is that protein isn't prioritized. And there's so many mixed messages, and you can watch so many different documentaries with pros and cons, a lot of cons about a protein and in animals and all of that. But that's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I consume whether I am in a quote diet phase, like a fat loss phase, or if I'm in maintenance, or I'm consuming 140 grams of protein a day. That is
Mhm.
me for my body, what works for me. That doesn't mean that that works for everybody out there listening. Okay, I'm
Sure.
just giving you an example. Clients, when I tell them that, they're like, what? You know, how do you eating 140 calories? And I'm like, or 140 grams of protein. And I'm like, man, there's not, I don't even have to supplement for that
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So what's your experience like with coaching clients to eat more protein and helping them get to that
So a lot of
mindset,
it
I guess?
too, yeah, it's habit, right? It's what you're accustomed to. And again, it's what we repeat is what our belief system becomes, what our habits become. And it could have started from when you were a kid and your parents just didn't put a lot of meat in front of you. It could have started with, a food aversion. Y'all, like my second child, I got so sick. The thought of chicken or meat, like, and sometimes I can even go back to it where I'm like, oh no, it has to be something that you work towards. So I'm never going to tell a client, okay, like first and foremost, when I first start with somebody, I ask them just to track their normal day to day. Let's just see what your body's used to getting. And then that kind of helps give us this idea of, okay, so we see that you're coming up shy on, let's say, 50 grams of protein, and you're really going over your fats because you've been taught to do this low carb thing. So how can we get you from point A to point B without, this massive jump? Let's 8.1, 8.2, 8.3. What can we do on a day-to-day basis to get you a little bit closer, right? So sometimes that looks just even like, okay, if you're having an egg and, avocado toast for breakfast. All right. So that's a fantastic breakfast. Sure. But how about we do an egg and 4 egg whites? That's not a lot more volume. It's a lot more protein and little things like that. So what else can we do at lunch? If you're having a salad, beautiful. That's great. Instead of having, just chickpeas on there, let's throw on 4 ounces of chicken and see what that does, things like that. And then there's always the small little things that we can do that we don't even realize, whether it's like adding a tablespoon of chia seeds or a tablespoon of flaxseed to your salad or your smoothie or whatever it may be, that adds up. Sure, it might only be 3 grams here, 4 grams here, but by the end of the day, you've just increased your protein by 12 grams. Like, yay, that's a win. So little things like that to where it doesn't feel like this, like, holy cow, I've got to get up 50 grams of protein. Like, no, let's start with 10. Let's start with just 10 more grams,
Absolutely.
and again, those small little changes, the more you do that extra 10 grams, well, then that doesn't become so scary anymore. So now I'm only at 30 or 40 grams short. And you just keep building on, I think that's part of the problem with so many of us is we look at this grand big picture instead of breaking it down into something that feels so much more achievable or doable and focusing on that step by step,
Or trying to do it all in week 1 or week 2.
Right. Right.
I'm always like, I'm always amazed at how, and I'm sure you experience this as a coach as well, that everyone's like, Jill is the chillest coach out there because I'm like, you're working towards it. That's all that I'm asking. I'm not
Right.
asking you to hit these targets on the second day that you start tracking your food.
Right.
And
Yep.
everyone feels this like, oh my gosh, I only have this much amount of time and I got to hurry up and do it. And I got to be perfect. And it is so not about that. Like what Kristin was saying on how to just slowly implement and slowly build your way up is such a better way. Cause then you're not going to burn out. You're not going to get frustrated. You're not going to have this negative mindset about it. It's just something that you're going to slowly build on. It's kind of like the water intake, yes, I want my clients to drink, a good amount of water, but I don't expect them to overnight, like go from drinking 1 cup of water to like,
Right.
100 ounces
Yeah.
or something.
And that's what I tell my clients too, in the sense of like, okay, listen, you've been living this particular lifestyle for who knows how long. You're
Mm-hmm.
not just going to pick a new one up. We have to slowly make these changes to where it feels like a natural pattern that's beginning to take place. And y'all, the time is going to go by anyway. So who says you have to have like do you think if you start doing everything perfect in let's say a week, you're going to lose 30 pounds? No, it's going to take time either way. So allow yourself that calming, peaceful learning experience
I love
and
that.
yeah, like it's just I don't know.
That's such a great way to put it. Tell me, okay, so we're talking about protein and why it's so important. When you combine the protein and the strength training, because I know, you're so strong, you do a lot of strength training, obviously. you know, most of my clients are probably older than yours are, but my generation, I would say Gen X and boomers, we grew up in that like skinny is everything. Nobody wanted like the J-Lo Kardashian booty type of thing.
Right.
When I was growing, that was like that did not exist, and
Right.
none of us really are thinking about that. So for us, not for me anymore, but for most people my age and older, when you think about lifting weights, the mind goes to bulking.
Right.
So how do
Yeah.
you talk to women about strength training without scaring the bejesus out of them that they're going to get like swole?
Right. So there's a few aspects that I like to really dive into. And again, this comes back to education, you guys. You will never understand something if you don't educate yourself on it. Okay. So I talk to all my clients like, this isn't a fat loss experience. Yes, you might lose fat. That's awesome. But this is actually a learning experience. I want you to learn what strength training does. So for women in their 30s, and this is how like it's so jacked up, right? Because I'm 39, I'm heading into my 40s. I still feel like I'm so young. I'm in my 20s. Jill just turned 50. Like we're so young. But you have to look at it long term. Women in their 60s, 70s, 80s can fall and break a hip, can reach behind them in their car and tear their rotator cuff. They can, I remember training at the gym, y'all, a 71-year-old woman who used to be an Olympic swimmer who couldn't raise her arms up higher than that because she
Wow.
lost that range of motion. The problem is in our 30s and 40s, we feel like we have so much time, 30s, 40s, 50s, we feel like we have all this time, but we don't. Another 20 to 30 years, it could literally make or break you for the rest of your life. So I always preface to them by saying, please don't take offense to this, but I'm literally preparing you for the next 30 years down the road so that you don't break a hip. I'm not calling you old. I'm saying you have to prepare. If you want to feel good and you want to run around with your grandbabies and you want to travel the world with your husband after you retire, you need to take care of yourself now because sarcopenia takes place in our mid 30s. That's where you start to lose muscle and it decreases every single year. So every year of your life from your mid 30s, you're losing muscle. And again, when we think of muscle, we think of bulky muscle. No, just the muscle that helps you walk, the muscle that reaches to the top cabinet to grab the cup up there. It's that kind of muscle will go away and will leave you brittle and feeble. And it's such a risk, right? So the first aspect that I really like to focus on with strength training is the fact that it is like the key to our youth. Like you have to keep those muscles on your body to stay healthy and stay fit, even if you're not super like running marathons and stuff, but just to stay healthy and fit as you get older. To maintain those muscles, you have to use them and they have to be put against resistance. It can't be the typical walking because your body's used to that. You have to put it through resistance to be stronger, to be better. All right. So the first focus is understand that you need muscle to preserve your life. Period. It has to be done, right? To keep that muscle, you have to strength train. Now, the second aspect that I go down the road with, because I do love to lift weights and I do love to lift heavy. And I know there are women that look at me and are like, I don't want muscles like that. I eat a lot of food and I lift a lot of heavy weights to get this muscle. Women have testosterone, right? But we do not have the levels of testosterone that we need to gain muscle like men. It's just not possible. And you would have to eat a stupid amount of food to gain that kind of muscle as well. In addition to having that testosterone or human growth hormone, there are women that like you see these crazy bodybuilding women, y'all, it's not natural. They get injections, they take steroids or they take human growth hormone and they're eating 3,000, 4,000 calories to get to that point. They are lifting hundreds and hundreds of pounds of weight. So for the average woman that's just wanting to be healthy, that's just wanting to be able to keep up with her kids or grandkids, you just need to eat a balanced diet and you need to lift some weights. not the weight of your purse that's 5 pounds. You gotta step it up a little bit, you know, but as long as you're consuming the adequate amount of protein based on what your goal is, not bodybuilding goal, right? But just to be healthy goal, and lifting, you know, a decent amount, then you're good. You're not gonna you're not gonna get over the top. And I think that's another thing to kind of point out of, once again, you lifting heavy for a week, you're not going to wake up and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, it would take years of that constant repetition to build a physique that you think is too bulky, you know?
Absolutely. And like you said, it takes a lot of food. It takes a lot of protein to put on muscle.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening, like if you are trying to lose weight right now, it's really difficult to gain muscle tissue on your body while losing fat at the same time. That's why tracking macronutrients is so important as opposed to just counting calories when you're trying to lose weight. So that you aren't just losing, you're not losing a bunch of muscle on your body. So I think as you age, what's important to remember is that your body's naturally gonna try to lose muscle. I mean, that sarcopenia, like you were talking about. So your body's going to lose muscle. So we're just trying to maintain it. And then by strength training and eating adequate protein, then maybe we can build some muscle tissue, which it is possible, but it takes more work than you realize. So the thought process that you're going to get like big and bulky it's not going to happen.
No, total myth. And here's another thing that kind of helps my clients understand, again, going back to the science behind it. Muscle burns fat for you while you're not exercising, like while you're resting. Okay.
Great
To
point.
break it down, if you have 1 pound of lean muscle tissue on your body, you'll be burning 50 calories a day at rest, not doing anything. So if you think about it in long term, let's say you have 10 pounds of lean muscle on you, you're going to be burning 500 calories a day, not doing anything. And if you do the math on that, 500 calories a day in a week, that's 3,500 calories, which is a pound of fat. So the goal shouldn't be how skinny can I be? The goal should be how much muscle can I maintain to make sure that I'm burning fat. When I go on vacation for a week and don't want to work out, my body's taking care of what it needs to take care of. You know what I mean? It's burning fat for me when I don't want to do anything type thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's just inevitable that as long as you can maintain that muscle that you have on your body, and again, maintain, not bulk, right? But keep what you have, you will continue to thrive longer, you know, long term down the road. It's keep your muscle.
Yeah. And what most people talk about, they want to look toned, they want to look fit, all that. I'm sure you feel the same way. When I hear that is like, well, that means you want muscles. That's what
Exactly.
that means. People
Right.
that have that toned look, they have more muscle than you do. That's the difference there. They have less fat and they have more muscle. So that's the toned look. And every body has a different shape. I can get compliments all day long on my legs, but like my waist is literally like 2 inches, like from my bottom of my boob to like my belly button. I have like about that much space, So, I mean, everybody's physique is totally different. Some of us are, carry weight more in the hips. Some of us carry it more in our stomachs. Some of us maybe in the arms. I mean, have bigger legs, like whatever. It's always going to be different. So sure, you've got a little bit of a genetic component going on, but muscle on your body is just always going to make your life easier and better. That's always the way I want to say it. It's going to make you feel a lot more confident too.
Absolutely.
For
Agreed.
sure.
100%.
What do you find helps the most when you're talking to your clients about the mindset behind all of this madness?
So I'm really big on our belief system and our subconscious brain. And unfortunately, our subconscious thoughts are literally framed from childhood. So it is really sad when, and it's not to blame our parents and point our fingers. They did the best that they could. But again, like my background, I grew up watching my mom constantly try to get skinny, always on a diet, always doing aerobics. It was never good enough. And so that instilled in my head what I needed to do. I always needed to diet if I want to feel good and be skinny, And so the biggest part of to me with my clients is if we can show your subconscious that's not the truth. It doesn't, you don't have to believe what your subconscious believes. You can change that. You can rewrite that. And I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but what I tell my clients is let's go back to child you. Let's talk to the younger you. What does she deserve? Does she deserve this whole life of dieting? Does she deserve this whole life of hating her body, of thinking she's not good enough because she can't wear a specific size? Does she feel like she has to avoid all this delicious food that should be enjoyed? Does she feel like she can't go out and do things that other people can because she is overweight, or because of this, or because, all these things? What is it that you don't like about your belief system when it comes to dieting? Are you truly happy when you're dieting and restricting yourself, when you're spending hours and hours doing cardio? You don't even like cardio, like it's kind of talking to that person and saying, what do you deserve and what do you want? And understand, hear me when I say you can have what you deserve and you can have what you want. And again, it's not an overnight thing. It takes repetition. So you might have to say to yourself in the mirror over and over, I love you and you're beautiful the way that you are. If you aren't happy with your body, you're not going to believe that, saying that to yourself in the mirror, right? So what is it going to take to believe that? Well, if I want to look in the mirror and love my body, I have to start treating it better. I have to respect it better. I have to, instead of saying, I've got to work out, ugh, I just ate a pizza last night and I'm so fat. No, stop. I'm going to take care of my body and know that movement helps my body. Movement helps my mental health. Movement helps keep my muscle. Movement, think about all the good things. And it sounds kind of cliche to say, replace all that negativity with something positive. And it does, it creates these sustainable habits that make you feel better about yourself. And knowing, again, if you're somebody that came from 1,200 calories and are terrified to go up to 1,800 calories, which is probably still under eating, it it not only is a slow process, but knowing and telling yourself long term, I'm doing good for myself. I'm taking care of myself. That is love. That is loving yourself. That is giving your younger self what you deserved and what you did deserve back in the day, And that, I think, it literally makes women cry left and right. If you say, talk to your younger self and tell her what she deserves, it's like, oh my God, because we've
Yes,
all been
totally.
there. Like, I would look at a picture of my younger me and be like, oh my God, in just 5 years, she was going to go on the cabbage soup diet. Like, that
Mm,
little girl at 12 years old is going to go on the cabbage soup diet. Like, what? I would
mm.
never, like, my children, they know I track macros, but they know it's for health. It's because I want to give my body things that it deserves and that it needs, and that I teach other people how to do it. I probably wouldn't do it as much if I didn't teach other people, but my girls know, like, we eat all the things. And this is why. This is why we do that. We work out so that we can be strong, so that my daughter can do her front handspring and not break her leg, and those kind of things. If you tell yourself the positive of it, not a punishment for it, then it completely changes your outlook.
Oh my gosh. I love all that. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
so many women need to hear that. Men don't have, for the most part, I'm not going to say everybody, but men, for the most part, do not have that negative mindset when it comes to their physiques. And I find it interesting, like, so if my husband will work out, he can kind of go in phases or whatever, but he's been really consistent. He does the faster way workouts from August till now. And it's so fun for me to see him be like, oh, wow, he's like feeling stronger. So when he's getting changed or dressed or whatever, he's like really proud of himself and he can tell like there's differences. And I love that so much. And I think, uh, man, I wish women, were feeling that way. Instead, when we're changing clothes, we're focusing on the negative things that we don't like. And I think that's why, like, as faster weight coaches, we're constantly asking our clients to share their wins with us. We're constantly asking, what went well this week? Tell me something good. Tell me something positive. Because as females, for whatever reason, we are really good at thinking negatively and counting up all the things we did wrong instead of counting up little things we did right through the week.
Absolutely. 100%. I do the same thing. And in fact, I'll even have my clients write out a list of, what are the things you love about yourself? What are your strengths? Let's acknowledge the weakness. Let's acknowledge where you feel like you're slacking or lacking or whatever you want to
Hmm.
improve. but then let's get a game plan. Instead of focusing on those things that you don't like, what is something you can do to try to improve that area? And then that way it doesn't feel like, so for example, and going back to what you were talking about genetics, I have really large legs genetically. I have really thick legs and I have cellulite. Y'all, I used to be a competitor, a bikini competitor. I got down to like 10% body fat. I still had cellulite. It's just inevitable. And for years and years and years, and I'm not gonna lie, I'd still love to get rid of it. But for years, I battled it and tore myself up about it and would hate to wear shorts. And it got to the point where it was like, you are literally the only one that gives a crap about this. Your husband loves your legs. Your friends love you. There's never been anybody at the beach that's looked at me and been like, oh my God, you're so fit, but you have cellulite. Like it just doesn't, it's not a thing. And so you have to start to be like, okay, is that this may be something I don't like about myself, but what's something that I can do that makes me feel better about it, that makes me love myself more or helps me improve it? Well, I can continue to strength train. I can continue to build that muscle in my legs. I can continue to shape my legs and condition them in a way that makes me feel strong, that makes me feel powerful, that makes me feel fit. There's
Mhm.
always some little thing that you can do to make yourself feel better about a specific issue. So again, that is why we celebrate those victories, the small wins, like I love when my clients will track their workouts because they'll say, I literally can only do like 5 push-ups on my knees. Well, then when I get like, I did 10 push-ups on my toes, I'm like, yeah,
That's
those,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, those are the things that we have to fill our mind with. Otherwise, it will be filled with the junk. It will, all the
Yes.
insecurities and everything will bring us down.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we wrap up, I want to say one thing. Well, I'm thrilled that the Faster Way brought you and I together because I've learned so much from you, and you're just a great supportive coach friend of mine, and as well as so many other Faster Way coaches. What about the Faster Way like brought you in as a coach, and give me a little bit of like, tell me what you love about the program and how we can educate women.
Yeah, so I was a trainer at a gym for years and like I said, I did my own nutrition journey, and so I personally did work with my clients on nutrition, but not a lot of trainers do. It's either always exercise or it's always nutrition. I would have clients come in and be like, "Do you have a nutritionist that you can refer me to?" And so when I found the Faster Way, it was like it was a godsend. First off, it was a godsend anyways, because it was at COVID and the gym got shut down. And I was like, well, crap, what am I going to do? But I found the program before that and
Mhm.
it was like this, here it is. This is the whole package. It's you have your exercise and the importance of exercise. Can you see results without exercise? Sure. But again, long term, that's not going to work. You have to have that movement, right? Well, nutrition, if you've got your exercise on point, but you're not eating the way that you need to be eating, you're not going to have the results. The Faster Way brought these two things together and has it all wrapped up in one package, plus a professional to help guide you through it. Because at the end of the day, we will never hold ourselves more accountable than we would if we had somebody there. So, I mean, even coaches have coaches. I have several coaches, Faster Way coaches that are my clients because we all need that. I check in with certain people to make sure that I'm staying on point if I have a goal. It's the whole thing in one. And I really feel like there's something to be said about a community because I was super private when it came to my own journey. I'm self-motivated. I've always been the kind of person that loves working out. I know there are people that hate it. I thrive off of it. And even when I joined that community and I saw, like, this is such a silly thing, but I have a client who's really fit. Her name's Heather. And when I saw Heather lifting heavier than I was in one of our workouts, I was like, oh, hell no. Like, so it gives you, and it was all in fun and games, but
Yeah,
it
of
gives you
course.
this sense of like, not a competition, but like just that friendly challenge of like, we can make each
Yeah.
other better.
Yeah,
We're
that
better together.
accountability.
Yes, for
Hmm.
sure. So it's just such a beautiful thing. And then obviously being able to reach so many people even though it's virtual, it's on a scale that, I mean, I have clients in Louisiana that I never would have fathomed that I'm helping change their lives through this company, through the Faster Way. So
Absolutely.
it's such a wonderful organization, and I'm glad it brought us together as well.
Yeah, it's been a blessing. And I think for us, like, the clients are, I mean, that part is incredible to get to work with so many awesome women,
Mhm.
um, to be their coach and that they trust us. But then to have all of these, I think the experience I didn't realize was that the coach friends that we would make as well, and have people in our lives that are cheering us on and that are helping us, answer questions, and just kind of getting, we have like our own, coach community that's pretty tight knit as well, which is really cool. But yeah, the community, I think, was something that there's something about, like a gym has its community for sure. Like
Mhm.
having a good gym to belong to has its own little gym community, gym family. But there's something about the faster way with when you get all these women in like when you start your 6 week round or your VIP community, that is just, I don't know, it's really indescribable how special those relationships can be too. And it's like total strangers. I remember going through my round as initially as a client was just like, I didn't even know that was a part of it. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden, I'm just like every day I'm checking in, going, oh my gosh, well, Sally did such and
Yeah,
such, or so and
exactly.
so dropped this recipe. That looks really good. I'm going to try that. Or someone else is experiencing the same pain points that I'm experiencing. So that part was really cool too.
It is cool. And you can build lifelong relationships. The girl Heather that I was actually talking about was in a round with another girl of mine from Louisiana that named Lauren. And Lauren texted me the other day, Heather's in Florida, and she's like, Heather's driving through to Texas. I'm going to meet her. They met up in person and had
Oh my
lunch.
God,
I
that's
know. I
amazing.
was like, look at me connecting
Look at
people
you.
together.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Cool. Well,
cool.
I will be seeing you soon. I can't wait.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a
Couple weeks.
leadership conference in a couple of weeks, so that'll be fun. All
Yeah.
right, Kristin, I know your girls are home from school. I'm sure you got to get going. So thank you so much for, educating us today all about macronutrients, the importance of strength training, protein, all of those things, and how, this whole like health journey, it isn't just going to be this just, what do you call that? It's not linear. Is that what we always
Right.
say? It's
Yep.
kind of
Yeah.
like, do, 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 do,
Yep.
do.
Absolutely.
All
Yeah. Thank you
right.
so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
See ya.